I'm gonna sort of duck down behind it as if I'm actually hunting here.
In this adventure, I'm practicing archery, but at the same time practicing self-filming my hunts. I'll bring you along on the 3D archery course, as well as to my backyard to fling some arrows. I get into some discussions about the equipment I use both for archery and for self-filming, and also get into some discussion about techniques and exercises you can use for traditional archery.
And let's look at this broadhead shot. I need to do that every time. If you do that every time, you will just do that every time, and it's really good to do that every time. Hi there, it's Logan from Bashline Outdoors. Flinging a few arrows to practice in the backyard today. I've got about a week before bow hunting season starts here in Pennsylvania. And as I practice my archery craft, I'm also sort of practicing my self-filming craft. Put this mobile filming rig together to where as I enter and exit my hunting spots, that way if something interesting happens, say I find a rub or some tracks, I can film it with my digital camcorder here. Or if I want to do some sort of interview type setup, I have my GoPro rolling here as well. Have them oriented forward just in case I get into a situation where I can still hunt or stalk an animal, and that way it can actually film a shot if a shot were to occur. And in that case, it also becomes important to practice shooting with the cameras on and rolling, just so I know what it feels like to shoot with all of this equipment hanging off the front of me. There's a nice kill shot there. Here I'm standing at 20. I'm just going to move up a few yards, see what happens there. On two of those shots, I hit my previous arrows. So out of those 5 shots, I like the location of 4 of them. I think it was the second arrow went a little bit forward. So this is my backyard target situation. Here I have a cardboard cutout that's approximately life size of a deer. It's important to have a target that's life size, so that way all of your aiming techniques, especially with traditional archery, so a lot of your aiming techniques stay sound and true. I also have a yellow spot there in case I want to shoot at a dot. And then over here, this is a broadhead target. These are both homemade backstops. Maybe I'll do a future video on those if anyone's curious about how I did that. And let's take a look at these 4 shots. This guy here is not a good shot. That's hitting bone, but that's why we practice.
Well, that's enough backyard arrow flinging for now. Let's get out in the woods and have some fun on a 3D archery course.
Not often you get a bison at 15 yards. It's a kill shot for sure. Put that one right about where I was aiming. You might want it just a touch left of there, but not bad. I've got a standing bear target at about 20 yards, I guess. And I think you want to put it right behind his elbow. Let's try it. Right about there is where I was aiming. I think maybe a touch higher would be better. Yeah, I did want to aim higher and to the right. But I was just aiming in the wrong place. That is where I've And this looks like a mountain lion jaguar type thing. I don't know. But it looks to be about the size of a deer. At least the body. The legs are shorter. I'm gonna try to stand in like a hunting scenario. So there's this little pine here. I'm gonna sort of duck down behind it as if I'm actually hunting here and see what I can do. I'm gonna guess that's about 20 yards. Let's see what we got. It's a kill shot. That's a pretty good shot. Pretty happy with that. Body about the size of a deer. Shot's a little back now that I'm getting up on it, but it's gonna be right through the diaphragm area. It's catching lungs. It's really got the exotic animals out here. We got a full-grown lion here, like an African lion. So I'm more interested in hunting for deer, but if I'm ever 15 yards away from an African lion with a bow and arrow in my hands, I think I'm in trouble. Put a good shot on it though. You see he's quartering slightly away. It's a pretty good shot. I'd really like it to be a little bit lower, but that's a double lung shot. Okay, so here we have a white-tailed deer with no ears. But besides that fact, standing at this stake, it's gotta be close to 30 yards. In a hunting situation, I'm not going to take this shot. It's too far with my traditional setup, but for the sake of fun, I'm going to let one rip from 30. Actually going to string lock up the string and hold it right on. This would be a 30-yard crawl. So let's hope I judged it right. And that right there is why I'm not taking this shot in a hunting situation, because that is a high shot. Now I'm gonna move into this little tree and pretend I'm set up on the ground and see if I can get a shot in from here. This is gonna be a little bit under 20, but more of a real hunting situation here. That tree that's halfway between us is in the way, so I'm gonna have to sort of lean out around that once I get drawn. That's a pretty good kill shot there. It's a little back, but that's a double lung. It's a dead deer. So this 30-yard shot might have snuck just under the spine. That might have caught some of the lungs or some of the arteries coming off the front. It's not a good shot, but it might have done the trick. But again, in a hunting situation, I'm not shooting from 30. This is the closer shot where I sort of hid behind that tree. I had to duck out around another tree, 15 yards. I'd like that shot to be a little bit lower down in this area. A little bit further forward, but that shot's gonna get the job done. Alright, glad to see another deer for this one. There's a tree here that I can sort of use as a hunting situation, hide behind it. That's a pretty far shot. Okay, so I'm gonna say 25 yards on this. So I'm gonna do my 20-yard crawl and hold it at the top of its back. It's a kill shot for sure. It's actually, for a 3D animal, it's a pretty dangerous shot because it's low. But in a hunting situation, that deer's likely gonna jump the string and come down a little bit. Put that arrow right in the vitals. It's a little back. Seems to be a trend for me today. It's quartered away slightly. That's very close to a heart shot. So 25 yards. I'd say it was actually in reality more like 27 for how low the arrow went. I was sort of hoping to hit here, but again, in a hunting situation, you actually want the arrow down there. So with a slow traditional bow recurve, that deer's likely gonna jump the string a little bit on you if it's a little bit weary. There, we got another deer, and I like this one because it's got to shoot between a bunch of trees. So I'm gonna shoot one from here, and then I'm gonna act like a hunting scenario and shoot another one from one of these trees. But this is a little bit less than 20. That's a perfect kill shot. I held my 20-yard crawl, just held it a touch low, went right where I want it. Now in a hunting situation, I might be hiding behind this tree here. There's not really a hole to shoot through there. But in reality, I'd probably sort of be in my saddle on the ground and just sort of peek out from behind this tree. Let's see if I can get away with this. You might not see it though. Here, since you wouldn't see that, I'll just do this tree. I just held 20 yard on there. There's so many things going through your mind. I just forgot, like, hey dude, you're at like 10 yards. So this arrow here was the 20-ish yard, 22 yard or whatever, 18 yard. I forget if it was 2 more or 2 less. Put it right where I want it. I'm gonna start with this close one. It's gotta be about 15 yards. I'm gonna hold the 20-yard crawl a little low. It's a good kill shot there. It's a little forward, but it's still sneaking under the scapula, I think. Shoot this other one for 20. That tree is completely in the way. Take a step back. That's a dead deer right there. Beautiful shot. It's just a little bit over 20. I held it just a hair high and it dropped right where I wanted it. So again, this first deer, that's still in the V. That's a good shot. I prefer it to be down and left a little bit, but that bone structure, the shoulders actually the bone comes up to here and goes this way, and then the scapula's up there, so that's actually in the V. It's a good shot. That's a dead deer. Okay. And then this guy here. That's right there. That's right in the heart. That's a good shot. And then over here, there's a little bit of an arrow graveyard. I guess those people must have missed and broke their arrows. Alright, so there's a deer down there. And it looks really far away. I'd probably pass on this shot in a hunting situation, just a little bit too far away. it's really hard for me to decide if that's more of a 25 or more of a 30. So a trick I do sometimes is I look off to the side and look at a tree, and then I try to rotate that tree over into the lane. So like that tree there, I'd say is 20, maybe 21. And if I rotate it, mentally rotate that over, it's sitting a good 4 to 5 yards in front of the deer. So that's putting the deer at just over 25 yards. Let's try another tree. This tree right here, I'd say is like 17. I rotate it here and it's a good 8, 9, 10 yards in front of the deer. So that's again telling me 25. So I'm just gonna do 25. That's my outer limit of a shot in the real hunting situation. I don't know that I'd take this shot in the woods. But if I decided that I can make a 25-yard shot, then it's a 20-yard crawl. Hold that arrow at the top of its back, and it should drop in. So that's what I'm gonna do on this deer here. All right, I held the 20 about 5 or 6 inches above where that arrow impacted. 28. So a 28-yard shot I'm not going to take in a hunting situation. Drilled the 11 ring. That's not the point of this. I'm hunting. And that's a high shot because at 28 yards with a recurve, that deer is going to jump the string. It's going to drop down and that arrow is going to impact it high. It's a good shot if the deer was feeding or distracted and you make the shot and it doesn't jump the string. It's a good shot. It's a lethal shot, but I'm not going to take a 28-yard shot in the woods. I'm not, even though I can. There's too many variables once you let that string go at that distance. With a recurve, I don't expect to encounter this thing in Pennsylvania. Let's shoot it from up here. I don't know if you can see it, but that there is a hyena. It's a small target. It's hard to judge the yardage on small targets sometimes because they will look further away than they actually are because they are so small. So try to look at the ground at its feet and say, okay, how far away are those roots at its feet? Or look at this stump over here. Like that stump, I'd put at 20. If I rotate that stump over, it's actually behind the hyena by a foot or so. So I'm just gonna put 20 right behind the shoulder. It's just maybe like a couple inches below the scoring ring, but like right in the kill shot, right on the heart, and see what that does for me. Wow. Just like I said, small targets can be deceiving. My arrow hit about an inch or two below where I was aiming, so it could potentially be further than 20. I'm gonna pace it off. 22 yards. I was aiming right about there, and it was a great shot, but definitely lower than you want it to be. A well executed shot, but misjudged yardage by just a couple yards, and it's enough to let my arrow fall out of there. Alright, now for this one, we're going to be climbing up to this elevated platform that's going to mimic shooting from a tree stand. And we've got 2 deer down here. Actually looks like it might be sort of like a moose fawn and then a whitetail. Not sure what kind of deer this front one is, but it's about the size of a whitetail. So it's good. Good pretend. Okay. So that front one I would estimate to be about 15 yards. It's pretty close. And it's the sort of opportunity you hope for in the woods. With a 15-yard shot on level ground, I'm going to put my 20-yard crawl right in the armpit of the animal. Now, since I'm at an elevated position, I want to aim extra low by like 2 or 3 inches. So I'm going to do my 20-yard crawl, and I'm going to aim on the back edge of the front leg down about 3 inches. That should put my impact right up in the kill zone. Okay, the outcome is good. It's a kill shot. The shot was not very well executed. The string hit the bill of my hat. I didn't get all the way back into anchor. My alignment was okay, but not a very good feeling. So let's try again with a better execution of the shot. Again, the arrow went in a good place, but I didn't feel good. Okay, a much better executed shot, and it's a kill shot as well. Okay, so now let's talk about that further deer. In a hunting situation, it's probably out of range. Right off the hip, I'm gonna say it's 27, 28 yards, which I like to keep them 25 and in. If I look at a tree that I think is 20 and rotate that tree over, it's sitting well in front of the deer. Again, I'm thinking 27. If I look at a tree that looks like 25, it's still a couple yards in front of the deer. So it's a 27-yard shot, let's say. I can hold my 20-yard crawl at the top of its back, would drop the arrow in for a 25-yard shot, and since I'm elevated, it gets me those extra 2 yards. So I think that's probably what I'll do, a 20-yard crawl at the top of its back. That should drop in there for a 27-yard elevated shot. Again, in a hunting situation, I'm probably passing, but just for fun here. It's a beautiful shot. It's a little forward, but it's still in the V. I'm pretty sure it's a heart shot. In a hunting situation at this distance, if that deer is on edge whatsoever, it's going to jump the string and drop down and maybe forward. And that shot might end up being a high lung, depending on how much the deer moves. Now, for 27 yards, my other option would be to do my 30-yard crawl and hold it just a touch low. And maybe, I don't like my 30-yard crawl as much because the knock doesn't contact my nose the way it does with the 20-yard crawl. But let's just see what would happen with that. Put it right in there as well. So this 15-yard shot, again, I did my 20-yard crawl on level ground. I would hold my 20-yard crawl in the armpit, but at an elevated position, I was holding that 20-yard crawl way down here, impacted it right where you want it. If you look, those arrows are angled pretty steeply downward, and they're going to exit the animal right down in that armpit, going through the vitals, probably going through the heart. I'll pull those later. You look at this further one. Again, I shot this deer for I think it was about 27. Both of those shots are about where you want them. They're a little far forward. I prefer them to be back here, but I think you're sneaking them in the V. The caveat being, in a real hunting situation, probably not even going to take the shot. 27 yards with a recurve. That deer is going to have the opportunity to move quite a bit before your arrow gets there, and all bets are off. Well, while I have the cameras out here, I thought I'd give you a quick rundown of my archery equipment for this bow season. I'll be hunting with this sort of traditional recurve, a modern traditional recurve, I suppose. So I got a 19-inch Farmington Archery Atlas riser, shooting it off the shelf, just a leather strike plate and a carpet rest. And then I have Win & Win black wolf limbs. These limbs are rated at 50 pounds on a 17-inch riser, and I have about 48 pounds on my fingers at full draw with this 19-inch riser. For arrows, I'm using 340 traditional only carbon shafts with 5-inch left wing turkey feather fletchings. Up front, I have a 75 grain brass insert with a 200 grain field point. I'll be hunting with 200 grain grizzly left bevel, single bevel broadheads. Flemish twist string, fixed crawl, and for silencers I have limb savers as well as cat whisker paracord do-it-yourself puffball string silencers. Other than that, I guess just shooting your basic old Fred Eichler Cordovan leather 300 tab, and that's about the setup. As for filming, I have a homemade tree arm that I might make a separate video about. I'm using Anchor battery packs on the cameras. The camcorder I'm using is an HD Canon Vixia second-hand refurbished camcorder. The GoPro I think is a Hero 8 Black. I just got that and sort of rigged together a few different things. One thing I will mention is that I have my camera on a quick release. This is pretty nice, but I put the quick release beneath the fluid head so I can transfer from my tree arm to the tripod that's currently holding the phone I'm filming with. So I can transfer between those two. So if I'm hanging the camera on a tree, I already have that piece on the tree arm, or if I decide to hunt from the ground and need to use the tripod, I can just unclick it and click it back on there and use the same fluid head for filming on either system. That's pretty convenient. And I also, these battery packs by Anchor are nice and lightweight, flat, and you can find clever ways of mounting them to your cameras to make it so you don't have to worry about replacing batteries in the woods. This way, when the cameras are not rolling, they are charging. And for the Vixia, it actually just sort of straight up powers the camera, whether there are batteries on there or not, just through using that external battery pack. So the only thing you have to worry about is recharging the battery packs before and after your hunts, which is pretty nice. I guess the only other thing worth mentioning is my pack is a Tidewee, cheap but good hunting pack, and my hydration bladder I think is made by Osprey. It's actually really convenient to have that as well. Well, I guess I'm done filming. So these are those 5 shots. So 2 shots on the deer, pretty decent, 20-yard shots. Got a 9er in there. This 6 was a pretty bad release. And the broadhead shot down there is equally far left. Again, not a great release on that one, but that's why we practice. I've actually found that the flight of my broadhead arrows is actually superior to the flight of my field points. I think that single bevel gives it a little bit extra rotational stability, I guess. They fly really nice, which is good to have that confidence in your broadhead flight when you're in the woods. All right, broadhead, I gotta shoot the broadhead target. Keep myself. Oh, there's a squirrel on top of the barn. He's not too happy with me. Let's pretend that the bottom right dot is the squirrel. Oh, just went right over the squirrel's back, I suppose. Oh, send him running away. So that shot's only like 2 or 3 inches high, but for a squirrel, I guess you missed it. Did a heart shot and then a 10, so that's pretty good. Another good kill shot. Let's go back at the gold. That was a very bad shot. Let's finish strong. I'm gonna keep myself honest and say I'm going for the top right. Bottom, let's go bottom right. Split the difference between them. So I chose to go bottom right because there's a twig in the way for the top right shot, but it still hit the twig on its way through anyway. Here's a solution for that. Gone. Oh, would you look at that? That arrow is actually right in there. I thought it was high. It's just in the top of the little gold circle I spray painted on there. Let's remember that one. Let's forget about that little guy. Couple good shots on that side. A heart shot and a longer. What the hell? I'm looking at this deer cutout. It seems a little small. I just made a new one yesterday. I guess it might be smaller than my old one. It's my veal target. All right, let's do another 30-yard banger here. Just a hair back, but probably still a lethal shot. It's sort of closer to the diaphragm area. Hoping you're catching lungs there. Let's do a close one now. Let's do a hunting situation. I'm hiding in the shadow of this tree here, waiting for a deer to come by. Oh. I gotta remember I'm close, so I'm gonna put my 20-yard crawl in the armpit. Good shot. Another thing to practice is to do like a severely closed stance and rotate at your hips. Do a severely open stance, rotate at your hips. So like sort of break the mold of normal, because you never know what's going to happen out there. So always sort of move at your hips to square up. Okay. So if you can point your toes at the target and rotate your hips 90 degrees and then still shoot a 10, then that's pretty good. Now let's do it the other way with my toes sort of facing away from the target. Okay. Oh, there's a target back there. Okay, that actually bothered me a little bit more, but I mean the shot is a few inches left, probably a 7. Let's do it again. A very terrible shot, like mechanically. It's a little low right, but it's still a 7. I didn't like it. Alright, just a regular old shot right in the 10 ring. I'm starting to get tired. I'm not getting a good anchor. I'm like taking my time getting in there. I just need to get in there and then execute the shot. Like that. That's what I wanted to do. Just got in there, got anchored, and I've been playing with my anchor. Shot some bare bow and sort of like competition, and I didn't like what I was doing with my anchor, so I completely revamped it just in the last week or so. And let's look at this broadhead shot. I need to do that every time. If you do that every time, you will just do that every time, and it's really good to do that every time. Okay, these are my shots here. So this was shot number 1. It's in the X ring. And then I called all these other 3 7s, but hey, that one was an 8. These are sort of fatigue, starting to get to be fatigue shots here. So what I was saying, so I was shooting a lot of bare bow, and I was doing a lot of weird things with my anchor. It was just too much, and I was wasting a lot of time at full draw. So I revamped it. So what I'm trying to do, which I'm still really struggling and practicing with, is just get right back there, and I want my jawbone, this piece of bone between the right half of my chin and my jaw, I want that bone to be basically pointed at the target, and then I ride my hand along my jawbone, and I'm anchored up under the jawbone, and my pointer finger, or at least the tab in front of my pointer finger, is touching my face almost where my bottom teeth, just below the center of my bottom teeth, touching my chin right there. And then I have contact with the nose against the knock. And the point, your nose is very sensitive, and you can hit that knock on the same part of your nose every time. If you have the chin, the jaw, and the nose, that triangle of anchor attachments all lined up properly, and your head was in a proper position to begin with, and your shoulders come into place, your alignment, like your string alignment, should be on every time, theoretically. So you can almost get to a place where you can almost ignore it. I know that's bad advice, but when you have a deer in front of you and you're trying to get a quick shot off, it's helpful to not have to close one eye and check your string alignment. You're going to forget anyway. So if you can get into the habit of having a very solid 3-point anchor like that, in a proper head position to start, then you should be in good shape. Gosh, I just love archery. It just feels so good to release an arrow, especially bare bow or traditional archery. Just to get back into full draw and anchored, and just, you can feel it before you let the string go. You're just like, if everything connects at full draw, it's a good feeling. And then if you then have a clean release and follow through, and you know that arrow is in before it hits the target, and you can just watch it. You can just watch it fly right into the middle. It's a good feeling. It's hard to replicate. in any other way than shooting a bullseye. It's a special feeling. That'll be enough of that.